Imagine history standing as a witness in the highest court. Could the world handle a verdict that shatters every known biological law? This isn't about blind faith. It's about physical evidence frozen for 2 millennia. A blood sample that still breathes. A geological crack aligned with surgical precision. A declassified reality that forces a choice. Is the truth truly hidden, or are eyes simply closed to what lies beneath the strata? The trial of the century is already over, and the evidence remains hauntingly alive. Now take a look at the landscape of Jerusalem, folks. Mount Moriah isn't just some random pile of limestone in the Middle East. Apparently, this location is what ancient traditions call the foundation stone, the literal center of the world, or the axis mundi. But here is where things get absolutely crazy, guys. Most people look at a mountain and see random geological forces at work. But the evidence suggests something much more mind-blowing. What if this mountain wasn't just a hill, but a geological altar preset for a singular purpose? Just imagine that for a second, fam. So think about the level of precision required here. Imagine a master architect designing a massive structure where every beam, every pillar, and every hidden chamber is built with one goal in mind. That is exactly what the data reveals about the internal structure of this mountain. It is just wow. Apparently, the crucifixion cross of the Messiah wasn't just placed on a random hilltop because it was convenient. It was placed on the exact X of a geological map that had been drafted centuries, even millennia, before the event even took place. Now, let's talk about this vertical alignment, because this part is going to blow your mind away, folks. Directly underneath the exact spot where the cross was positioned sits a hidden cave. And inside that cave, the Ark of the Covenant. We are talking about a vertical alignment that is surgically accurate, guys. A direct line through layers of solid rock, connecting the instrument of sacrifice above with the symbol of God's presence below. Now, how does a crack from a random earthquake manage to link those 2 points so perfectly? It's absolutely crazy. In the world of geology, fissures and cracks are notoriously unpredictable. They follow the path of least resistance, turning and twisting through the earth in jagged, messy patterns. But this specific crack? Apparently it acted like a high-tech conduit, a pipeline. When the math is laid out, the probability of a natural earthquake creating a perfectly vertical fissure that lands precisely on the mercy seat of a hidden artifact is basically zero, folks. It simply does not happen by chance. In civil engineering terms, this is a statistical impossibility. It turns the mountain from a silent stone into a functioning prophetic machine. Just wow. Now think about the odds here, guys. For a crack to open up exactly at the foot of the cross and lead all the way down, millimeter by millimeter, to land exactly where it needed to land. It's mind-blowing. This realization shifts the entire perspective of history. It suggests that the tectonic plates of the earth were literally waiting for that specific moment 2,000 years ago. Every fault line in the limestone, every underground vein, and every hidden chamber was part of a premeditated design. It is like a geological lock that could only be opened by a specific key at a specific time in history. Apparently, the very ground of the planet was a witness to a script that was being played out with total precision. So when the rocks split at the moment of the crucifixion, it wasn't just a sign of destruction or a random natural disaster. Apparently, it was the final gear in a massive clockwork mechanism turning into place. It's just absolutely crazy to think about, folks, but the evidence is written right there in the strata of the earth. The mountain wasn't just a place of execution. It was a piece of sacred technology, a geological altar designed by a higher intelligence. Take a look at the alignment one more time, fam. It's not just a story. It's an intentional geological blueprint. It's a design that stayed hidden for 2,000 years until technology and archaeology could finally catch up to the truth. The mountain was waiting, the ark was waiting, and the crack was the bridge between the two. Now, if that doesn't strengthen the faith of anyone watching this, nothing will. It's a mind-blowing testament to the fact that nothing in this world, not even the rocks beneath our feet, is there by accident. Everything is part of a grand, master design that is finally being declassified for the world to see. Just imagine the power behind that kind of planning, folks. It is truly, absolutely crazy. Now think about the sheer mystery of the location, folks. Why would the Ark of the Covenant, the single most precious artifact in biblical history, be tucked away in a dark, damp cave instead of sitting in a magnificent, gold-covered temple? It seems almost counterintuitive, right? But apparently, the answer lies in a masterstroke of ancient military strategy and a very specific tradition known as the Genizah protocol. It is absolutely crazy when the historical pieces finally click into place, guys. To understand why the Ark ended up beneath the mountain of Golgotha, the focus has to shift away from simple hiding and toward a high-level, sacred lockdown strategy. In ancient Jewish law, anything containing the holy name of God or considered a direct link to the divine couldn't simply be destroyed or left to be captured by enemies. If an object was in danger of being desecrated, it had to be sequestered. This is the Genizah, a permanent, isolated storage for holy items. It wasn't just about putting things in a box. It was about removing them from the physical world until the time was right. Just wow. So, imagine the scene in 587 BC. The Babylonian army is at the gates of Jerusalem. The city is under a brutal siege. Now, the priests in the temple didn't just spend their time in prayer. Apparently, they were operating as strategic logistics experts. They knew the temple was going to fall, and they knew the Babylonians were coming for the gold and the artifacts. They had a massive responsibility: protect the Ark of the Covenant at all costs. And this is where the tunnel networks of Jerusalem come into play, folks. It is mind-blowing stuff. Take a look at the geological reality of ancient Jerusalem, guys. Underneath the city streets lies a massive, complex labyrinth of limestone tunnels and secret chambers. This wasn't just some random basement. It was a sophisticated, multi-level underground highway. Apparently, the priests utilized this hidden infrastructure to move the Ark out of the Holy of Holies and deep into the heart of the mountain. It was a military-grade extraction. They weren't just wandering around. They were following a pre-planned route through a strategic storage facility built for the worst-case scenario. But now, here is the real aha moment, folks. The choice of the final location, Mount Golgotha, was a stroke of psychological genius. Why hide a treasure there? Think about it. Golgotha was a place of death. It was a gritty public execution site where criminals were sent to die. From a tactical perspective, it was the ultimate camouflage. No invading soldier, no Babylonian general, and no looter would ever dream of searching for the kingdom's most sacred treasure beneath the feet of the condemned. Apparently, the priests used the darkest place in the city to protect the brightest light of their faith. Just wow. So the Ark wasn't lost by accident. It was strategically placed in a sacred vault directly beneath the future site of the crucifixion. It was an intentional campaign to ensure the Ark stayed untouched for centuries. Every turn in those tunnels, every sealed-off chamber, and every cubic foot of limestone between the cave and the surface was a calculated layer of defense. Apparently, the priests were thinking hundreds of years ahead, setting the stage for a connection between the Old Covenant and the New that is just absolutely crazy to contemplate. Now, consider the sheer logistics of such an operation during a time of war. The silence, the darkness, and the precision required to move an object of that weight and significance through the bowels of the earth. It is a testament to an ancient intelligence that goes far beyond what is often taught in history books, folks. The Ark was placed in a state of strategic hibernation, guarded not just by tradition, but by the very layout of the mountain itself. Apparently, the mountain of Golgotha became a vertical fortress. Above, the world saw a place of punishment and pain. Below, hidden by layers of solid rock and the Genizah protocol, sat the symbol of God's presence, waiting for the exact moment the earth would split open. It is a mind-blowing realization that the most public event in history was happening directly over the most secret location on the planet. The logistics were perfect, the timing was perfect, and the strategy was absolutely, undeniably crazy. Just imagine the dedication of those ancient priest guys, working in the shadows to preserve a truth that would eventually change the world forever. It's a level of foresight that is just, wow. Folks, the more the layers are peeled back, the more it becomes clear that nothing about the Ark's location was a coincidence. It was a masterpiece of ancient engineering and military-grade secrecy. Now let's talk about a man named Simon Greenleaf, folks. This guy was a titan, an absolute legend in the world of American law. He was the Royal Professor of Law at Harvard University back in the 19th century, and he literally wrote the foundational book on what counts as evidence in a courtroom. Apparently, Simon Greenleaf is the reason modern legal systems even know how to distinguish a fact from a fairy tale. But here is the mind-blowing part, guys. Greenleaf decided to take his world-class legal brain and apply it to the historical records of the Bible. He didn't approach this as a preacher. He approached it as a cold, hard prosecutor. And the results? Absolutely crazy. So imagine sitting in a jury box right now, folks. The judge is on the bench and the evidence is being laid out. In the legal world, there is something called the ancient documents rule. It is a specific legal principle that Simon Greenleaf championed, and it is going to blow your mind away, fam. This rule states that if a document or an artifact is more than 30 years old, is found in a place where it would naturally be kept, and has no suspicious signs of fraud, then the law automatically presumes it is authentic. The burden of proof doesn't fall on the person who found it. It falls on the person trying to debunk it. Just wow. Now, take a look at how this applies to the discoveries at Mount Golgotha, guys. When Ron Wyatt claimed to have found the Ark of the Covenant and the blood of the Messiah in a hidden chamber beneath the crucifixion site, the skeptics went wild. But apparently, if Simon Greenleaf were in that chamber, he would be looking at the natural custody of the object. Think about it, folks. Where would the priests of Jerusalem hide the Ark of the Covenant during a Babylonian siege? They would hide it in the secret tunnel systems of the Temple Mount. Where is Golgotha? It is part of that same mountain system. Legally speaking, that cave is the most natural place on the planet for those artifacts to be found. It is absolutely crazy how the legal logic lines up. So, the ancient documents rule basically creates a legal shield around these finds, folks. Because the Ark was found exactly where the historical and biblical records suggested it was hidden, directly beneath the site of the sacrifice, the law of evidence suggests it must be treated as the real deal. Apparently, Ron Wyatt didn't just find a box. He found a piece of evidence that meets the highest standards of the Harvard Law School curriculum. It is mind-blowing stuff, guys. This isn't just about having faith anymore. It is about accepting the verdict of the physical evidence found in situ. Just wow. Now consider the role of a jury. A jury in this situation, folks. A jury's job is to look at the preponderance of the evidence. Is it more likely than not that this is the truth? When the geological data of the mountain, the historical accounts of the priests, and the biological anomalies of the blood are all presented as one single case file, the legal weight becomes overwhelming. Apparently, the case for the Messiah's blood isn't just a religious claim. It is a forensic reality that would stand up in any civil court. It is absolutely crazy to think that a 2,000-year-old event can be verified using the same rules of evidence used in modern murder trials, folks. Take a look at the rule of competency that Greenleaf talked about, guys. He argued that if a witness is consistent, has no motive to lie, and their story is backed up by physical objects, their testimony is legally competent. Ron Wyatt's accounts of the chamber, the four entities, and the specific location of the Ark have remained consistent for decades, folks. And then, the physical objects appear exactly where the testimony said they would be. In the eyes of a legal expert like Simon Greenleaf, That is a closed case. The evidence is authenticated by its location, its age, and its internal consistency. Mind-blowing, right? So the shift here is massive, folks. It moves the conversation away from miracles and into the realm of proven facts. Apparently, the reason these discoveries are so threatening to some people is that they aren't just stories. They are exhibits in a trial that has already been won. The ancient documents rule protects the truth from being dismissed as a myth. It forces the world to look at the limestone of Golgotha as a crime scene where the evidence was perfectly preserved for 2,000 years. It is absolutely crazy, fam. Now imagine the implications of this legal validation, folks. If the location is authentic under the law, and the blood is found on that location, then the blood must be treated as authentic evidence too. It is a chain of custody that goes back 2 millennia. Apparently, the verdict of history, is already in. The evidence is sitting in the strata of the earth, meeting every legal requirement ever drafted by the greatest minds of Harvard Law. It is just, wow. The truth isn't just out there, guys. It is legally verified, forensic, and sitting right under our feet. Absolutely crazy. Just imagine the power of a case so strong that the greatest legal minds in history would have to agree. The evidence is real. Folks, the trial is over. The verdict is in, and the truth is mind-blowing. Now take a look at the science behind this living blood, folks. For a biological sample to remain viable for 2,000 years, the environment has to be a perfect natural vault. This is what molecular science calls biostasis, a state where the internal clock of a cell basically hits the pause button. Apparently, the limestone cave underneath Golgotha acted as the ultimate biological freezer, guys. High salt content, zero light, and a perfectly stable, cool temperature created a preservation matrix that defies the normal laws of decay. It's absolutely crazy when the physical conditions of the earth line up with the supernatural, folks. And here is the mind-blowing part. The Ark of the Covenant itself is covered in gold. Now, gold isn't just for show, guys. In the world of medicine, gold is naturally antimicrobial. It creates a sterile zone that prevents bacteria from breaking down organic material. Apparently, this artifact created a sterile environment that shielded the blood from the elements. It's just wow. The sacrificial blood wasn't just sitting in a cave, it was sitting in a high-tech, gold-shielded preservation chamber. Is this actually possible? Well, take a look at modern microbiology, folks. Scientists have successfully recovered and revived bacteria trapped inside salt crystals for over 250 million years. If a simple bacterium can stay asleep for eons and come back to life, then a human cell kept in a sacred, gold-shielded environment is a forensic reality. So, when the dried sample was diluted with saline for 72 hours, the white blood cells began to divide. Apparently, they were still alive. It's just mind-blowing, folks. Now let's talk about the biological blueprint found in that lab, because this is where things get absolutely crazy, guys. A typical human male has 46 chromosomes, 23 from the mother and 23 from the father. But the results from this specific blood sample revealed something that totally shattered the logic of the technicians. Apparently, the blood only has 24 chromosomes. Just 24, folks. That's 23 chromosomes from the mother and one single Y chromosome to determine the sex as a male. There were no chromosomes from a human father. Zero. It is a biological fingerprint of a virgin birth, written directly into the DNA, guys. The enduring code found in this cave provides a physical record of an event that was previously only a matter of faith. The science doesn't just suggest a miracle, it tracks the miracle down to the molecular level. It's absolutely crazy to realize that the proof of a divine origin was sitting in the strata of the earth, waiting for modern technology to finally read the code. Mind-blowing, right? Take a look at the precision of the genetic data, folks. This wasn't a damaged sample or a mistake in the lab. Apparently, the technicians were so stunned, they thought someone was playing a trick on them. But the reality is sitting right there under the microscope. 24 chromosomes, alive after 2,000 years. It's a biological code that proves the Messiah was more than just a man. He was a biological anomaly. Just wow. The evidence is forensic, it's concrete, and it's absolutely undeniably crazy, fam. It turns the entire field of genetics on its head. Just imagine the power of a truth that can wait 2 millennia to be decoded by a lab in Jerusalem. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff, folks. Now, there is a massive question that keeps coming up, folks. Why is the mainstream world so silent about this? If a 2,000-year-old blood sample with 24 chromosomes is actually sitting in a lab, why isn't it on the front page of every newspaper on the planet? It seems absolutely crazy, right? But apparently the answer isn't necessarily a dark conspiracy. It's actually a psychological phenomenon that philosophers call the paradigm shift. It is mind-blowing stuff when the mechanics of human belief are finally understood, guys. Take a look at the work of Thomas Kuhn, folks. He was a brilliant thinker who explained that science doesn't just move in a straight line. It stays inside a box, a paradigm. When a piece of data comes along that doesn't fit into the current box, the human brain has a very specific reaction. It ignores it. It treats the information as noise rather than a signal. Apparently, the idea of the Messiah's blood being found is so far outside the current scientific box that the collective mind of the establishment simply cannot process it. It is just wow. For a perfect example of this, folks, look at the Antikythera mechanism. This was a complex bronze computer found in a shipwreck over 100 years ago. It was 2,000 years old. But because the box of history said the Greeks didn't have computers, the mainstream world ignored it for nearly a century. They called it an anomaly. They called it impossible. Apparently, the truth was sitting right in front of them, but they were literally blind to it because it didn't fit the paradigm. It's absolutely crazy, fam. So the silence of the media isn't a proof of falsehood. Apparently, it's a proof of a paradox of bias. The evidence is so shocking, so disruptive to the status quo, that the easiest thing for the world to do is to look the other way. But the strata of the earth do not lie, guys. The DNA doesn't change its count just because it's inconvenient for a textbook. Apparently, the truth is just waiting for the paradigm to finally break. It is mind-blowing to realize that the most important discovery in history is being treated as an invisible ghost simply because it's too real for the current world to handle. Just wow. Now, move into the final verdict of this journey, folks. The forensic case is closed. The geological alignment is surgically precise. The legal standards of Simon Greenleaf have been met, and the biological code of a virgin birth has been mapped out in a Jerusalem lab. Apparently, the intersection between the material world and the divine has finally been reached. It is no longer just a matter of blind faith, guys. It is now a matter of physical evidence. It is absolutely crazy. Take a look at the timeline of humanity, fam. For centuries, people have asked for a sign. They've asked for a proof. And apparently that proof was sitting 20 feet beneath a place of execution all along. It's just wow. The blood of the Messiah dripping through a crack in the limestone to land on the mercy seat of the ark. It's a connection between the old and the new that is so perfect it could only be a stratigraphic design. It is mind-blowing stuff. So the question is no longer, is it real? But what will be done with the truth, folks? Now that the declassified reports are out and the chromosome counts are known, the responsibility shifts to the individual. Apparently, the earth has given up its secrets. The mountain has told its story. And the blood is still alive, testifying that the Messiah isn't just a figure in a storybook, but a forensic reality. It's absolutely crazy to contemplate the weight of that truth, guys. This is the moment of the aftershock. The aftershock. The truth of Golgotha is a geological and biological reality that demands a response. It is a mind-blowing realization that the King of Kings left a physical fingerprint in the very dust of the earth. Apparently, the wait is over. The evidence is here, and for anyone with eyes to see and a heart to believe, the world will never look the same again. It is just, wow. The verdict is in. It's time for the folks to decide where they stand. God bless every one of you watching this, and stay tuned because the truth is more powerful than anyone ever imagined. Absolutely crazy, folks. Just wow.